Hey everyone, it's Jordan and welcome back to another video. Today I'm sharing what I eat in a day, focusing on anti-inflammatory foods. So why should you care about inflammation, which is the opposite of anti-inflammation? Well, chronic low-level inflammation is associated with these top chronic diseases that we see here in the United States. So how do you know if you're inflamed? Well, you may already have a diagnosis of an inflammatory condition, or maybe you just don't feel great. And one blood test often used to measure inflammation is called C-reactive protein, or CRP. So you may hear me reference that as we're going through this video. So I'm just starting by making my chocolate, olive oil, and sea salt protein smoothie, and I'm starting with a base of water and unsweetened macadamia nut milk. Whatever milk you use, just make sure it's unsweetened and has the least amount of ingredients you can find. Next up, I'm using ground flax, which is providing fiber and ALA omega-3s. Now remember, it's important to note that ALA omega-3s must be metabolized to EPA and DHA because we can only get about 15%. So it's important to have both ALA, EPA, and DHA sources of omega-3s, which I'll talk more about. Next up, I'm using extra virgin olive oil as my fat source. EVOO is high in oleic acid and high in polyphenols, been shown to reduce cardiovascular and diabetes risk and improves lipid profiles, aka cholesterol. You would think because it's a fat, it would do the opposite, but it's good for lipids. And then to make it that sea salty chocolate flavor, I added about 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt. Sea salt is actually really important for hydrating properly when you're drinking water, so don't be afraid to add a little pinch of salt. I'm using this vanilla pea protein as my source of protein, and then I'm going in with some raw cacao powder. Cacao has quite high quantities of flavonoids. So to get the benefit of those flavonoids, which are anti-inflammatory in chocolate, just make sure if you're getting a chocolate bar or not having raw cacao powder, that you're getting something that's at least 70% or greater cacao. And then for my greens, I am using some frozen kale. I'm a huge fan of frozen veggies. And really on an anti-inflammatory diet, you want to eat at least 5 servings of veggies a day. Veggies have flavonoids, fiber, and protective phytochemicals, which are superior to any other single nutrient, and spices are great as well. So I added a dash of cinnamon to my chocolate olive oil smoothie. It doesn't look chocolatey, it looks green from the kale, but boy, does it taste fantastic. You guys have got to try this. I'll link any of the ingredients so that you can order them online down below in the description. And here's me post-spinning workout. That's why my face is nice and red. Enjoying that post-workout smoothie and just feeling so good. All right, so for lunch, I really wanted some avocado toast, which is something I have often, and you guys know that if you watch my videos. Look how perfect this avocado is. So avocados, like olive oil, very similar. It's a monounsaturated fat, and it's associated with reduced cardiovascular issues and mortality. So a fantastic anti-inflammatory fat to add to your diet. I probably eat about 1/2 an avocado every other day, sometimes every day. So you can save the other half by keeping the seed or the pit in it and putting it in the fridge. It'll last a little bit longer that way, or you can eat the whole avocado if you like. And I just mash it in the shell along with some salt, maybe some lemon juice. Sometimes I mash in some miso. So delicious. So I just mash it up, that way I don't have to add it to another bowl, and saves dishes. So this is the bread that I'm using. It's actually a paleo bread, so there's no grains in it. It's primarily made of fibers and nuts and protein. And nuts and seeds have minerals and other nutrients shown to reduce C-reactive protein, or CRP, and lowers the chance of total mortality from cancer and cardiovascular diseases. So just having 3 servings of nuts or seeds a week can lower mortality risk by 39%, you guys. So you can have it in this type of bread, or you can just eat the nuts and seeds, or you can use nut or seed butter, whatever you want to do. So I'm just mashing up my avocado and adding it to my toast. I don't really have a special technique with this. I just try to get it evenly distributed on both sides. And there we go, nice and mashy and yummy and salty. Then I added some lemon juice on top. Lemon juice is high in vitamin C and acid. It's helpful for digestion. I always have lemons and limes in my fridge ready to go for topping just about anything. And then I had some pasture-raised hard-boiled eggs. So pasture-raised eggs have a favorable low ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, 1 to 3, compared to conventionally raised eggs that have a ratio of 19 to 4. So we want sources of omega-3 versus omega-6. We already have a ton of omega-6 from the standard American diet, and where Americans are really lacking is in omega-3s. So pasture-raised eggs is something, in my opinion, that's worth it because their omega-3 to omega-6 profile is so much more pro-anti-inflammatory, if that makes sense. I just added my hard-boiled egg on top of my avocado toast, and I've got some carrots on the side. I ended up adding another egg because I knew I needed the protein and knew it would help me stay full. I try to aim for at least 20, ideally 30 grams of protein per meal. That keeps me really full and satisfied. Then I added some herbs. I had cilantro on hand. Herbs are a fantastic antioxidant, similar to vegetables. So I usually pick one herb to have in the fridge for the week, whether it's parsley or cilantro. And then for dipping my carrots, I found this herb tahini sauce, and the ingredients are fantastic from Trader Joe's. Tahini is a great source of fat to seed, so like we talked about, nuts and seeds. And it's just a great convenient dip to have on hand. Hummus would be fantastic too. And so that was my lunch. A really nice summer plate of, veggies. I really didn't have to cook anything. Some cool dip. Delicious. Here's me digging into lunch. This dip, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to make this at home, or I just need to go to Trader Joe's more often because it is fan-freaking-tastic. So if you're not like a huge bean or a legume eater, but you really want like a dip like hummus, you've got to find that herb tahini sauce. That toast is so freaking good. Oh, delicious. So I wanted to share just some snack ideas or other like sources of things that I have on hand, like unsalted sardines. They're super duper high in omega-3s, Alaskan pink salmon in a can. These are just like quick, easy protein sources that I have on hand for lunches, maybe a snack if I'm having a snack that day. This raw almond butter from this brand makes packets, so I take those in my car for school and for clinical. So those are just some other options I wanted to make sure to share with you, convenient anti-inflammatory options. So for dinner, I made a big old pot of stew. I started with an organic sweet potato and onion, 2 green bell peppers, some poblano peppers, and I'll leave the link to the recipe that I followed down below, and so that you can get the exact amounts. Some garlic, and some tomatillos. This is the reason why I made this recipe, is because I got a huge bag of tomatillos in my CSA box and I needed to use them up. So this was like a tomatillo salsa verde chili that I made. So you just take the skins off of the tomatillo and just give them a rinse, and then you can chop them up just like you do a tomato. So I'm starting in a pretty large pan, heating that up and adding some avocado oil. And then I just chopped up all of the veggies and added them once the skillet was hot. Bell peppers especially are super high in vitamin C, and vitamin C is another mineral that's associated with lower CRP levels. So I definitely recommend getting your vitamin C from fruits and vegetables, and bell peppers are a fantastic source of them. So you also want to be thinking about, on an anti-inflammatory diet, the different spices and herbs that you're using. Anti-inflammatory herbs are things like garlic, turmeric, cumin, oregano, rosemary, cayenne, thyme, cilantro, parsley. And so this stew had a lot of those things in them, which was why I was excited to use them. So I used like 2 tablespoons of dry oregano. Oregano is super anti-inflammatory. So anytime I can use dry oregano, I sprinkle it on pizzas. So if I buy a frozen pizza, I'm always like sprinkling oregano on it. It's so delicious. then some cumin, and I did add probably about a half a teaspoon of turmeric, but if you're not familiar with the flavor profile of turmeric, I would go low, and I would start slow and go low with it. I would do like a quarter teaspoon, and make sure you add pepper to your turmeric because the pepper helps the body digest the curcumin, which is that anti-inflammatory property of the turmeric. So turmeric and pepper always have to go together. So there's our spice blend for the stew. The veggies are getting nice and cooked. I added a can of hominy, which is kind of like a corn, but it's like a sprouted kind of corn. It has like this really good bite to it. I just try to find canned foods that don't have a BPA lining when I used canned foods. And then I used a cup of homemade chicken broth. Chicken bone broth is also another property that's very, very good for inflammation. It has a lot of amino acids that are really healing for the gut. Then I added a can of diced chilies. And something to keep in mind with this stew is, and an anti-inflammatory diet in general, is I'm using a potato, I'm using a sweet potato, and it's totally okay to have starch on an anti-inflammatory diet, but just be aware of those high glycemic foods like white flour, sugar, processed grains. They cause an abnormal surge in blood glucose and insulin. So anytime you can choose whole grains, starchy carbs like potatoes, they're a lot more favorable to our gut microbiome compared to those high glycemic index foods. So here is my stew, just topped it with some herbs. I had some scallions and some more cilantro on hand, and it was so delicious. A perfect early fall meal. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your questions and comments down below, and I'll see you soon for another one. Bye!